Today, we're tackling Stoicism. It's a philosophy with some, well, surprisingly practical tools for dealing with life's ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, the learner, I think this is a shortcut maybe to understanding its core ideas and, why they still matter today.
Exactly. We've been digging into some really interesting material about where Stoicism came from, its basic principles, and its lasting influence.
Right.
Our mission here is really to pull out the key insights, the most important stuff, and make those connections clear for you.
Okay, so let's jump right in then. The story starts, apparently around 300 BC, in Cyprus.
Yeah, with Zeno. He was a merchant, seemed to be doing pretty well for himself. And then disaster strikes. Shipwreck, loses everything, just poof, gone.
Wow. An event totally outside his control.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people facing that, you'd be devastated, sure.
Oh, absolutely. That's the typical reaction, isn't it? Anger, despair, the whole range. But what's really fascinating about Zeno, according to our sources, is how he responded. Instead of just, staying stuck in that loss, he turned towards philosophy. Reading Socrates, thinking. And that journey, that pivot, is what eventually birthed Stoicism.
So right there, that's a key takeaway. Stuff happens, bad stuff even. But how we react, that's where our power is.
Precisely. That's foundational.
So, boiling it down, what's the absolute core of Stoicism? The material talks about acceptance and indifference. But indifference sounds cold, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Like apathy?
Yeah, that's a really common misunderstanding, and it's important to clarify. Stoic indifference isn't about not caring at all.
Okay.
It's more about strategically choosing what gets your energy, recognizing that external things, wealth, reputation, even health to some extent, aren't fully in your control.
So you don't let them dictate your inner peace.
Exactly. The focus shifts to what you can control. Mm-hmm. Your judgments, your choices, your actions, your character. That's the Stoic playing field.
Gotcha. And Zeno, he was influenced by Socrates, you mentioned.
Deeply. You can really see that philosophical lineage. And what's also striking, looking at the sources, is how public they were about it from the start.
Not some secret club, then.
Not at all. They taught openly in public spaces like the Stoa Poikile in Athens, hence the name Stoicism. They believed these ideas were for everyone.
Which explains its incredible reach. I mean, the sources mention key figures from opposite ends of the social spectrum.
Right. You've got Epictetus, who started life enslaved, Seneca, a super influential statesman and advisor, and Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor himself.
Emperor, slave, statesman, all finding value in the same core ideas. That's pretty powerful.
It really is. And they were quite forward-thinking in other ways, too, for that time. The term cosmopolitan.
Citizen of the world.
Yeah, they coined that. But for them, it wasn't just about travel or, liking different cultures. It was about recognizing a fundamental shared humanity.
Like a universal brotherhood sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Pushing back against division, against inequality. And related to that, their views on women in philosophy were also quite progressive.
Oh, how so?
Well, there's mention of Musonius Rufus, another Stoic teacher, arguing that women had just as much natural inclination towards virtue and philosophy as men, which was definitely not the standard view back then.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so it had this broad appeal, some surprisingly modern ideas.
Yeah.
But why does it still resonate so strongly now? What makes it stick?
Well, I think part of it, as our sources suggest, taps into a very human thing. Mm-hmm. How much we hate being blindsided by bad news or events.
Right. The rain analogy you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the rain analogy is perfect. We kind of accept rain is possible, maybe even likely sometimes. Yeah. So a normal shower doesn't usually throw us off completely, but it's the sudden, unexpected thunderstorm when you've got outdoor plans. That's what gets frustrating.
Okay.
Stoicism says, well, what if we mentally prepared for other kinds of storms? Not dwelling on the negative, but just acknowledging that, hey, difficulties happen, setbacks are part of the deal.
So expecting the possibility of things going wrong actually softens the blow when they do.
Exactly. It reduces the shock, the feeling of this shouldn't be happening. It prepares you.
Interesting. And then there's this other practice, voluntary discomfort. That sounds unpleasant. Sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
Cold showers.
Yeah, it can sound a bit hardcore. But the idea isn't self-punishment. It's about building resilience and maybe counterintuitively cultivating gratitude.
How did that work?
By choosing small discomforts, you prove to yourself you can handle hardship. You appreciate the comforts you normally have more. And you learn your happiness doesn't depend on, say, always having a soft bed or a hot shower.
It's like mental strength training. building calluses, like you said.
Precisely. It inoculates you against the fear of hardship. And this ties into another modern pressure. The sources mention all the advertising, the social media.
Right, the constant message that you need this thing or that status to be happy.
Yeah, the external validation trap. Stoicism offers a direct counter. Focus inward. Focus on your character, your choices, your integrity. That's where real value lies, not in collecting things or likes.
Because those external things can disappear, right? Like Zeno's fortune.
Exactly. Possessions break or get lost, jobs change, relationships evolve, natural disasters happen. If your happiness is tied only to those things, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. It's inherently unstable.
That reminds me of the Seneca quote. Something about living with less.
Yes, learning to live with less will create space in your life for the things that truly matter to you. It's about decluttering not just your house, but your desires, focusing on intrinsic worth.
Which leads nicely into this other huge concept, the dichotomy of control. Sounds important.
Oh, it's absolutely central. Probably the most practical tool from Stoicism.
Okay, break it down for us.
It's simple, but profound. It's about clearly distinguishing between things you can control and things you can't. Full stop.
Things I can control.
Yeah.
Like my effort, my attitude.
Exactly. Your judgments, your intentions, your actions, how you respond to things, those are yours.
And things I can't control.
Well, pretty much everything else. Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, whether you get that promotion, how many views your YouTube video gets.
The YouTube algorithm example from the
Not
source.
bad.
Yeah. I control making the video, the effort, the quality I aim for.
Right.
But the algorithm, the audience reaction, largely out of my hands.
Precisely. Epictetus put it brilliantly. He said, the chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control.
So don't waste energy stressing about the uncontrollable outcomes. Focus on your input, your choices.
That's the essence of it. Like the person who doesn't get the promotion, disappointing, sure. But the Stoic approach is to focus on, did I do good work? Was I professional? Did I act with integrity? That's where the value is, because that's what was in their control.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It feels like it all points towards building certain inner qualities. The sources mention the 4 cardinal virtues.
Yes, the 4 pillars, you could say, that guide Stoic action. They are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice.
Let's take them one by one. Wisdom.
Wisdom, in this context, is largely about understanding that dichotomy of control. Knowing what's internal versus external, what's truly good or bad versus just, indifferent, and then choosing your responses wisely.
Like that Viktor Frankl idea, the space between stimulus and response.
Exactly. Wisdom is operating effectively in that space, choosing a considered reaction rather than a knee-jerk one.
Okay. Number 2, courage.
Courage is about facing difficulty, pain, or fear with resilience and persistence. Not necessarily being fearless, but acting rightly despite fear or hardship. Sticking to your principles even when it's tough.
Got it. 3rd, temperance.
Temperance or moderation. It's about self-control, finding balance, doing more with less, resisting excess, especially regarding, say, wealth or pleasure. The Stoics weren't against having things, but they distinguished between what's natural or necessary and what's just excessive, what actually complicates life.
Doing more with less. That connects back to Seneca.
It does. And finally, justice.
This one feels big.
It is. Justice is about fairness, kindness, treating others well, recognizing our shared humanity, that cosmopolitan idea again. It's about understanding we're all interconnected parts of a larger whole and acting accordingly, not harming others.
And the sources use Nelson Mandela as an example here.
Yes, a really powerful modern example, spending decades in prison facing immense injustice. Yet he apparently read Marcus Aurelius, found strength in Stoic ideas, and when released, he chose reconciliation, justice for all, not revenge. That's embodying Stoic justice and courage on a massive scale.
Wow. It's amazing how these ancient ideas connect to such modern figures and even modern therapy, right? The sources mention REBT and logotherapy.
Yeah, it's fascinating how modern psychology has, in some ways, circled back to similar insights. Albert Ellis's REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, is very much about identifying and challenging the irrational beliefs that cause emotional distress. Which sounds a lot like examining our judgments, doesn't it?
It really does, controlling your interpretations.
Exactly. And Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, born from his experiences in concentration camps, focuses on finding meaning and purpose even in the worst circumstances. Again, that resonates strongly with the Stoic emphasis on virtue and living a purposeful life regardless of externals.
So applying Stoicism isn't just reading about it. It's like rewiring your brain.
That's a good way to put it. It's an active, ongoing practice, constantly checking your judgments, focusing on your actions, reminding yourself of the dichotomy of control, striving for those virtues.
It's a discipline.
It is. It's about training your mind to navigate life's difficulties more effectively, to find a sense of peace and self-worth that isn't dependent on the chaotic outside world.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive then, the big takeaways seem to be focus on your response, not the event. Really nail down what you can and cannot control.
The dichotomy of control.
And actively cultivate those virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, justice.
Absolutely. It's a framework for resilience, for finding meaning internally.
And you mentioned a final provocative thought from the material.
Yeah, something to really chew on. It pushes the idea to its limit. Even if the absolute worst happens, the sources literally say if our ship sinks and we all drown, even in that ultimate loss.
All right.
There can still be a kind of peace. Peace in knowing you lived well, acted virtuously, focused on what truly mattered right up to the end, accepting that everything is ultimately impermanent.
Accepting impermanence, even on that scale.
It's a profound challenge, but it really underscores the Stoic focus on the quality of our inner life and actions above all else. Something for you, the listener, to maybe reflect on how might these ideas apply, even in small ways, to the challenges you face.